It is Tuesday. I'll start again. Welcome and good evening. This is the Winchendon Board of Selectmen meeting. I'm going to call to order. It is Tuesday, June 20th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. If you would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience this evening who is audio or video recording? If you could just indicate so, I would appreciate that. I see none. And I do want to announce the live broadcasting equipment has given us some fits today, this afternoon. It's kind of going in and off. Even though we may not be broadcasting live, it is being recorded, and the recording will be available on the website tomorrow. I apologize for that. All right, Selectmen comments and announcements. Mrs. Lapointe, anything this evening?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Anderson?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Mrs. Blanchard?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you, and I have nothing at the moment. Public comments and announcements. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the board? And I see none. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda, we have a first interview for our interim town manager position. I would like to welcome Bill McKinney. Please.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. So I'll just start by opening up the floor to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what piqued your interest in Winchendon.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Bill McKinney. I went to college sort of close by, the College of the Holy Cross in Worcester, so familiar with the area. I live in Dedham. After I graduated from Holy Cross, I went to work for State Street Bank for many years, and while I was there, they had a tuition reimbursement, so decided to get my MBA at Babson College. So I went there at night for 5 years, and I liked the fact that Babson was highly regarded for entrepreneurship, and I've always been active and involved in my community, and I've been a Boy Scout leader for many years. I've coached youth baseball for many years. As soon as I turned 18, registered to vote, got elected town meeting representative. Dedham has a representative town meeting. I did that for several years until I got elected townwide as a commissioner of trust funds. Not every town has it, but it was townwide office. So I've always been active and, like I said, involved and like to give back to the community. So after I got my MBA, I was looking around for opportunities in government and talked to some friends in the Swift administration, and they mentioned that they were looking for a deputy commissioner for administration and finance at an agency called the MDC. And the MDC doesn't exist anymore. It was merged with the Department of Environmental Management to form what's now DCR. So I was there for about 7 months, and when I started, first of all, I was totally impressed with the government workforce. Having come from the private sector, the only thing you hear about government workers was what you read in the papers, and that was not the case at all. There were a lot of hardworking people that were dedicated to making government work more effectively, for the public and for the citizens. So I liked it. The commissioner said, Bill, you understand administration and finance. He goes, I want you to go around and check out the entire agency from a fresh perspective. Go and meet with the employees, meet with the public, get a sense of what's working and what isn't working. So I did that. So I went around, obviously the MDC controlled the Quabbin Reservoir, and most of the properties were back east. But so I did that. We had lifeguards, swimming pools, beaches, skating rinks, the hatch shell, roadways, dams, drawbridges. So it was almost like running a town except without a school department. So So anyway, so I was there for a little bit. Governor Romney got elected. First thing he did was fire my boss and put me in charge. So I'd only been there for a few months, but I was able to hit the ground running and make a lot of improvements, and also be able to work with the employees to. It was a tough merger. You had two 100-year-old agencies, that had a culture, a distinct culture to themselves, and so trying to, let people know this isn't about, necessarily letting people go. This is about, finding the best use of everybody that's within the agency, the new agency, DCR. So we did that, did a couple of other agencies within government, and then a new governor got elected and, got let go. So I went, helped my brother out with his physical therapy practice, helped to grow that business. But I really was interested in getting back into municipal government. I had asked my town moderator to appoint me to the Finance Committee. So I served on the Finance Committee in Dedham for 6 years. And with that experience, I applied and was selected to be the CFO for the town of Weymouth. So I was there for 4 years. It was a town with about $150 million budget, a community of about 50,000 people. And I really enjoyed it. And then Charlie Baker got elected governor. They asked me to come run the Department of Labor Standards, which I'd never heard of before. So I had to do a little research into that. It was an agency of about 55 employees that was responsible for employee health and safety for the public sector. So OSHA covered the private sector, labor standards covered the public sector. We're also responsible for lead and asbestos licensing. We licensed staffing agencies. We set the prevailing wage rate for all public projects and also registered apprenticeship. So it was kind of like they created an agency out of all the leftover labor laws. So I did that for over 4 years, then moved over to DCAM as the CFO. DCAM's the agency that builds all the state buildings. So trial courts need a building, DCAM builds it, and then turns it over to the trial courts to run. We also handle all the leases for state agencies. So I did that for a while, moved into another role, and then again a new governor came in, and so I'm a free agent, and I saw this opportunity and applied.
Well, thank you very much. It's interesting that you mentioned your position in the town of Weymouth and then also in Dedham. What forms of government do those towns? Was it town manager, board of selectmen, town meeting, or was it a city?
So Dedham was town manager, board of selectmen, and town meeting with an active finance committee. Weymouth, the town of Weymouth had a mayor and a town council.
Okay. Yeah, we're just under right about 11,000 for our population. Still embracing the old-fashioned town meeting method of government. I'll open it up to questions from the board. Anyone wish to start?
Are we just going to go by the document, or are we free?
We can.
Okay.
I mean, feel free to improvise. We do have a set of standard questions.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mrs. Anderson.
If I could, only because I'm familiar, my mom lived in Weymouth for a long time. That's a big little town. It's huge. And obviously our budgets are dramatically different. And so how would you kind of work with the budget that we have in Winchendon?
Yeah, so I was looking on the website, which parts of it looked like it hadn't been updated for a couple of years. I was trying to find some of the town reports and some other things. But the other DLS, the Division of Local Services, has a lot of good information out there, with the community comparison report and, comparing all the cities and towns in Worcester County. So, with a smaller budget, there's a lot more challenges because it's tougher to just add a person, for a particular role. So, one of the things that I always look to do, when managing people is, if people leave, that's when I reassess the role of what they were doing. Is it something where the work can be spread out to other people? Oftentimes it is. Some people have been at their jobs for a while. They know it. They know it very well, but they retire, and suddenly, things have changed over the years, and so it's really, a chance to reassess and come from a fresh perspective and look, okay, what can we do differently? Winchendon, looking around at some of the neighboring towns, are there services that could be combined? Are there things that we could be doing with neighboring towns to kind of share services? Are there positions that, could be half with Winchendon and half with Ashburnham? Things like that. So that's what I would look to see if there's any savings. Even with Weymouth, just before I got there, they were doing a trash compact with Braintree and with Quincy. So it's like, okay, put out one bid to provide trash services for the 3 communities. Are there things like that we could be doing with our neighbors?
Thank you. I think if I could just piggyback on that, and you currently live in Dedham,
Yes,
that's a horrible commute.
it was horrible tonight. It should have been, well, it said it was an hour and a half when I left, but there was some kind of accident on Route 2 in Harvard.
There's
on the way up.
always an accident on Route 2.
Yeah, because I wanted to get up here a little bit earlier to drive around the town and check it out. So I did get here in time, unfortunately, but I wasn't able to spend as much time as I wanted.
But usually, to be fair, you'd be
It'd be the
coming
other way.
in,
Yeah.
and the traffic would be lighter because nobody comes this way in the morning.
Yeah, once I got past Leominster, it really opened up. But,
Yeah.
so I looked at, that's why when I saw was the interim town manager, that's what, made it appealing. Because I've, been working from home for the past 3 years, and it's nice to get out and drive, and, especially this
4
part
days
of
a
the
week.
state.
4 days a week.
Yeah,
We are open Monday through Thursday.
okay, it's even better.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I could piggyback off that statement, are you, it doesn't matter either way because we're open to both, but are you potentially interested in the permanent position as well, or just interim, and that's what you?
I haven't even thought about that. I wanted to, hopefully get this and then,
Yeah.
see where that led.
Okay. I do notice, your financial background is very important. Over the last couple of years, we have a new town accountant, new treasurer collector, so those offices, while doing okay, are areas of particular focus that whoever comes into this role, and obviously when we get for a full-time, the financial aspect of everything is going to be a high priority to help wherever possible those offices and those appointments. Are you familiar with Munis,
Yes,
the
that's what we
accounting
used in Weymouth.
system? Okay.
Yeah, so I was not familiar until I started, and that was one of the concerns the mayor had. She's like, have you used Munis? I said, I haven't, but I'm familiar with all the accounting, concepts and principles. So,
Okay,
I
good.
was able to learn it pretty quickly, and then eventually, be able to go and show the police chief and the fire chief and the others how to enter, setting up for the budget for the next fiscal year and how to enter all those things. So, yeah, no, it's a great program, which a lot of people are like, are you crazy? Nobody likes Munis, but I did like it. It was fairly easy to use, and it was very helpful for the reports that it put out when we were presenting the budget to the public and to the town councilors.
Sure. All right, well, that's good. We are looking for an interim who is going to keep things moving forward. The last couple of years, we've had a lot of projects going on in town. Paving of Central Street, the whole redesign of our Central Street, the community park. We opened up a brand-new amphitheater, community park in town. A brewery is coming into town. And I'm not sure what we have on the just getting started project list. Justin Solzbach, who is leaving, current town manager, yes, I haven't seen the list yet, but he's putting together a spreadsheet of where everything is on these upcoming projects, and so we definitely don't want to lose our momentum as we go through this change at the high level.
Well, that's another thing that made it, appealing for this position and kind of worth the drive, was it seemed like there were a lot of positive things happening. And, I didn't want to, just come in and be a seat filler. Like, I think there's a lot of things that can drive a lot of improvements. One thing that's been helpful for me is I've done a lot of networking and made a lot of connections, in the legislature and, with a budget where over 40% of it comes from the state. obviously that's going to be helpful, getting as much money as possible, because you're limited in how much you can get from property taxes. So, I did a lot of good things in Weymouth. I started the OPEB Trust Fund. When I started there, I said, well, this is crazy, and this was back in 2011. I said, we don't even have an OPEB trust fund. Like, we have, this is a huge liability that's coming down the road, that everyone's so focused on the pension, which I also saw, your pension funding is a little bit light, which could lead to a reassessment and a higher contribution. Again, that was from the 2020 report, so I don't know what happened beyond that. But, there's going to be a lot of challenges, and so, making sure that we at least, started the OPEB trust fund. We had an issue with something called net school spending.
Yeah, we've heard that term before.
Yeah, and so what happened was, Weymouth was, the parents were looking at the fact that, Weymouth wasn't hitting its 100% of its net school spending requirement. And so I took a look at that to figure out, why is that? We're spending a lot of money on education. How can we not be hitting that particular target? So when I did some research, I found that there's something that happened when the 1993 Education Reform Act was passed, that cities and towns that counted retiree health insurance as part of that cost could count it going forward, and cities and towns that didn't couldn't. So, Weymouth was part of like the 35% of communities that were not allowed to count that, and we had about $4 million in retiree health insurance that we were spending, so we were spending the money on behalf of the schools, but it wasn't counting. So I talked to the Mass Municipal Association, I talked to, the town council, I talked to, the rep and senator for Weymouth, and, everyone's like, oh yeah, we've sent letters, we tried to get this thing fixed, and nothing's happening. And I said, letters don't do it. I said, you have to go to the people that make the decisions. So I went and I met with Senator Brewer, who was the chair of Ways and Means at the time, and I said, Senator, we've got a big problem here. And he said, I know we do, Bill. It's affecting some of the communities in my district. And I said, all we have to do is remove this sentence that's in the budget every year. And he said, it's not that simple. There's a process for that. Yeah. But he said, it's too late in the process this year, but come back to me next year. So I came back earlier in the cycle, and we were able to get language in to rectify that net school spending to allow all the communities to count retiree health insurance. But unfortunately, the House had its own version of the budget. It did not survive conference committee. So the next year I went and met with Chairman Dempsey of the House Ways and Means Committee, and I explained everything to him. And he was able to get that put in the budget. And the compromise that they had was they allowed you to phase in that contribution over 4 years, so 25%, 50, 75, 100, because they didn't want communities to suddenly say, hey, guess what, we're spending enough, we don't have to give any more to schools, because that wouldn't be fair. But it was something that, like, everybody else had given up on, said it's never going to happen, and I just refused to let it go, because I said this is important, not only for Weymouth, but for a lot of other communities. So even though it took 2 years, I was able to get an act with the legislature. So I think that those things, are very helpful, the tenacity and really wanting to get things done. And, if there's projects or different things that, we need help with, I know a lot of other town managers and town administrators across the state and, experts in different fields, so.
Thank you, and I was exactly thinking the word tenacious. Tenacity is a good trait in my book. You mentioned, you even checked the website and such like that. Did anything jump out to you as a weakness, other than the state of our website?
The bond rating, the lowest bond rating in the county, I think it was A+. I think it's just Winchendon and Fitchburg that had A+ for the bond rating. So I know that's a challenge. Obviously, it costs more whenever you have to go out to borrow.
I think it was raised recently in the last 6 months. It's got a minus at the end of it now, if I recall.
Maybe it's AA minus. Maybe it went from A+. But like I said, I looked at the Division of Local Services. They have all the economic indicators.
Okay.
So that's where I saw, the 40% plus that comes from the state.
Okay. Bond rating. Okay.
For the budget. I saw that the community did not pass the Community Preservation Act.
Yes.
At the most recent town meeting.
They are going to be bringing it back at some point, I think, and I don't know when, but okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, the finances are, going to be a constraint. And so it's going to take some creativity to try to figure out, how can we get these things done? Are there grants available for some of the things that, some of the capital needs, that the town would have? Because obviously grants only go so far, so they're perfect for one-time capital expenses as opposed to, the ongoing, ongoing operations of the town.
Yeah. Do you have grant writing experience?
I haven't written any grants, I've managed grants.
Okay.
So we've had grants that, like in Weymouth, we had a SAFER grant, which is for firefighters. We had, the year before I got to Weymouth, they had layoffs, which is one thing I made sure that we did not have going forward, because that's devastating to a whole range of things. It's devastating to the people that got let go, it's devastating to the people that are still there, and then it's tough to recruit good employees, if they're afraid that, they could lose their job at some point. So the firefighters had gotten together and were able to save 5 firefighter jobs by applying for a SAFER grant. And that grant was going to expire before we had expended the money. So, I called the folks in DC that managed the grant, and, I said, I want to talk to the person who, gives the yes or no on these things, and was able to get a hold of that person, and we were able to extend. I said, I don't need an extension of money. I just need an extension of time to be able to spend the money. So we were able to extend that. So again, we didn't have to lay anyone off, and then we were able to just keep it rolling going forward. So, it's all about, not really not taking no for an answer, but finding out who's the key decision maker and getting in front of that person.
Exactly. Thank you. Anything else?
Madam Chair, yeah.
Yes, Mrs. Blanchard.
So what do you see as a priority issue in Winchton, and how would you address them?
The priority would be, for me, would be first getting to know, each of you and finding out, why did you run for the select board, and what are your priorities? Because it did the same thing with the Weymouth Town Council. I wanted to know, people run for different reasons, and they focus on different things once they get in. So if there was an issue that came up, I wanted to make sure that the person's the most passionate about it, knew first, what was going to be happening. So I'd want to, like I said, get to know each of you and what you're hearing from the constituents. What is it that people want out of Winchton? Is it more businesses coming into town? I noticed some of the vacant, some storefronts. Obviously, proximity to New Hampshire is a challenge. So, what are some of the industries that could be attracted? It's a huge land area. I was surprised that it's even bigger than Worcester. So there could be some potential opportunities, especially with all the, 12 and 202, heading through the town, 140. So, there could be some opportunities here. Why did businesses go to Gardner instead of here? And really get a sense of what's happening in the town, go out, meet with the residents, meet with the people that are passionate, like, that are here in the audience. Find out, okay, you want to be active in the town, okay, why? What is it that you like about what's happening in town? What don't you like? When you interact with the town, what do you like about it? What don't you like about it? If you're coming to town hall for something, is it something that we could have done online? Some days, like, when it got close to tax collection day, I'd go to the collector's office and I'd talk with the people in line and say, do you know you can make these payments online? Or you could just drop it in the drop box outside, just some people are like, oh, I didn't know that. Well, here's some information about how you can do that so you don't have to come into town hall next time. Other people, it's kind of a social thing. They've seen the same people in the office. They want to go see them, once a quarter, and that's fine too. But, I want to just let people know that, hey, we have some different options, and, also get to know what it is, again, how they like or don't like their interactions, with the members of the staff.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mrs. Lapointe.
We recently had a working group, and the town passed it at town meeting where we've implemented a brand-new structure, and we still have to write out all the particulars, where our director of DPW is now going to be overseeing like a point person for the school and a point person for the town. And the objective of that was sharing resources and eventually, getting a financial win. Right now, this first year, it would break even. We have some retirements in the school. So it's an effort to combine and do things efficiently and not in silos. And the same kind of, while the school makes their own budget, this administration, the current superintendent and Mr. Solzbach, have been very good at working together in terms of the budget. I don't remember how many years ago we passed a 2.5 override. And while that belongs to the town, there was a handshake that would always go to the schools. And I use this as an example because the superintendent was his idea, and very happy about giving some of that up to the town this year, because the Student Opportunity Act that's in effect for a couple more years really gave the schools a temporary windfall of money. So one of my priorities in this position is going to be that ability to, while the budgets are separate and distinct and have, very clear purviews, that ability to kind of work together for, what's best for the town and keep that collaborative relationship going. And I think you said I don't remember where you said it was from, but it was like running a town but without the school department, right? So I just wanted to hear a little bit about the experience of meshing that when it's not really yours.
Yeah, so so in Weymouth, we did work closely with the school department. Obviously, it's here's one number, and you spend as you will. But we did work with them. We were trying to look at where we could combine IT functions and costs, where we could do the same thing with the the DPW type, buildings and grounds, types of things. Is there something we could do with the finance staff? Each side had a finance staff, and so we did look for opportunities to, where we could save money. Not only save money, but just make a better experience and kind of fit things together and have some synergy. And one side might have more of an expert in a particular category than the other, and how can we utilize that? Some points of the year people are busier than they are on other points of the year. So, or just some seasonality to the thing. So, how could we make sure that it's one town? It's not, it's not the town side, not the school side, but it's one community where all the employees are working together for the betterment of the public.
Thanks.
What else do we have for Mr. McKinney? Do we have anything else for Mr. McKinney? I'll put it that way.
I think you addressed most of my points.
Melissa, anything else come to mind? Okay. Barbara?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. We are doing more interviews this week. We'll reach out to you probably very early next week.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I could, before you let him go.
I just thought of one question I was going to ask too. When would you be able to start?
I could start Monday.
Okay.
I mean, literally, I'm a free agent, so once I assume there'd be a background check, and but no, I'm available.
Okay.
The only thing I do have is, so I'm a Boy Scout leader, and I'm taking a group over to the World Scout Jamboree in South Korea.
right.
So we leave July 27th, and I get back on August 12th. So I just wanted to, disclose that up front. It's not really a vacation because there'll be a lot. There's about 43,000 from all over the world that are going. So.
Wow.
So July 27th, August 12th is the only thing I have planned.
Thank you. Yes.
I was wondering what questions Mr. McKinney might have for us.
Yep.
So, the next steps was the big question. What do you see as some of the challenges, that somebody coming in from outside of the community would have as far as getting up to speed? And like you said, I look at it as, almost like running for office. Like I'd want to get out and meet everybody, to get a sense of what's happening. But I don't know what some of the top priorities that you might have for, whenever the person starts.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mrs. LaPointe.
I had a brief conversation with the current town manager about his thoughts for that role, and he relayed to me that he feels like all the projects that are currently going on are in a good place and will be fine for a few months, but that the biggest, not a concern is in anything is going wrong, but the biggest maybe worry is making sure we stay on top of the finance piece of it, because as I think it was Chairwoman Labrie mentioned, we do have new staff. She's new to us as well as new to being in the top role. So there's a lot of newness there. So one of the big concerns is making sure, the finances are really just looked at closely, and monitored, and that assistance is there to her when needed and if needed. That's one of the biggest priorities in my mind.
Yeah, and I had mentioned before, I was kind of speaking for the whole board, but keeping the momentum. It's been a great 3 or 4 or 5 years. going back to when Keith Hickey was here, and we had to borrow 3 million from the state because we had a little issue in 2015. We all pulled together, we paid it back in 4 years, and we've just been kind of going gangbusters since with everything going on in town. And I think it's important to maintain that momentum. There's always going to be the naysayers, coming in from out. In my perspective, sometimes an outside view is refreshing because it's another set of eyes on an issue or something that's going on. So I personally welcome it. There's going to be people in town who, he's an outsider. You're sure you'll find those people everywhere. So.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mrs. Lapointe.
As well as our aging infrastructure. We have a 100-year-old water pipe that's on its very last leg. We've secured some funding for that, but that's an expensive project. Walls on some buildings are crumbling. There's a lot of things that have been neglected for decades that, you can't really ignore anymore. So that's also one of the big pieces.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the finances are, obviously, that's one of the most important things. And so when I started with the town, I call the Division of Local Services all the time because I want to say, okay, you're going to be the one who approves our tax recap sheet or our Schedule A. I worked with the town accountant to make sure that we were, filing everything and knowing what goes in each specific category. So if I had a question, I'm not just going to chance it. I'm going to give the person a call and make sure that we're on the same page so, that they know exactly what it is that they're approving. So obviously, if there's going to be that same type of challenge here, I think, again, knowing a lot of people will be helpful.
Anything else?
I think, Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs.
if I
Anderson.
might, I think finances in all aspects could really benefit from a fresh set of eyes to look at. And it would really, be helpful to the residents. Also, somebody who's willing to listen to the residents, that, they're important and we work for them. And to always remember that is always my priority, that a lot of times they don't feel welcome coming to town hall with their issues. And I would like it to be more welcoming to them.
When I was running the MDC, it's nice when you're in charge because you can make the changes that need to be made. So, I was running the MDC, I made sure I went around and I met with the town managers, with the mayors, with the select boards, to get a sense of how we could be a better partner, as a state, because, we had properties in their cities and towns. And, so I met with them, but, I remember going down to Nantasket Beach in Hull and just, walking along, taking a look at things and I saw a group of people that looked like they were regulars down there, and, I went up and I introduced myself, and I said, what can we do to make your experience better? And one of the women said, you close the bathrooms, you lock them at 4 o'clock. And a lot of people would love to, are here until 6 o'clock. I said, okay. So I went back, I made the change, and I got the nicest thank you note from her, that she realized, wow, someone's actually listening and paying attention. So, that's what I like about, like I said, managing people and managing things is you can really get in and make a difference. I've had so many times when employees would come up to me, people come, talk to me all the time and, open door policy and everything. And, so I'd want to get to know them a little bit better, get to know their families, different things. And I was always asking them for ideas on how we could improve things. And oftentimes they come up with an idea and, I'd think about it and I say, okay, let's do it. And they're like, I've been asking people for years and no one wanted to do anything about it, so I just gave up even asking. And I hate to see that in employees, especially employees who've been there for a long time, who have a lot of good things to offer, that, that they're afraid to even come up with an idea because they're afraid it'll just get shot down. So even if they come up with ideas that, I say, look, it's not something we can implement, at least, they know that I'm listening to them and I can tell them why it is that we're not able to do it. But sometimes things are easy to implement. So I had somebody who was working, I think he lived out in near Westboro. We had an office in Westboro, but he was coming into Boston every day. And he said, wow, I'd love to work a couple of days a week out at the Westboro office. This was before COVID. And I said, okay, let's do it. And he's, and it just improved his quality of life because he didn't have to come into the office all the time. He was able to access everything he needed, in another satellite office. But he had been turned down for doing that before, for no reason. So I'd love to listen, more than talking. I like to listen to what people have to say, because they're the ones who utilize government services.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mrs.
I
Lapointe?
did think of one more thing. I acknowledge that there wasn't a town manager or a town administrator background in your resume, but the strength of your financial background put any worry to rest for me. But do you have any concern? You're also going to be, overseeing the police department and the fire department. Any concern about not having that sort of history in your background?
No, because in the town of Weymouth, I work closely with all the other departments. It's budget related, but I developed a great working relationship, with all of them. And so it's, again, just getting to know them and, getting to know, for a lot of people that have worked for me, I want to know, what are the roadblocks? Like, what is it that's preventing you from doing the best job you can? Is it technology? Is it the hours that you work? Whatever it is, I want to remove those so that everyone comes to work every day excited to be there. And that's the kind of enthusiasm. I love coming to work with a smile, and it's kind of contagious. So, I want to find out, okay, how can we make things better for you? What are some of the simple fixes that we can do, to make it a better experience? So, you have a problem, you have an issue, you need a new cruiser, whatever it is, let me know. Nothing we can do about it right away, but at least, it's on the list so that we can, make sure that something comes up, we can take advantage of it.
Thank you.
All right, well, it looks like we're all set. Thank you again. As I mentioned, we are doing at least one more interview this week. I'll reach out to you end of this week, beginning of the next week at the latest.
Okay. Excellent.
And reach out if you have any questions to Linda or Mary.
Okay.
And thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
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 All right, next we have the Town Manager Search Committee discussion. We have 6 requests for 5 positions.
I don't like when that happens.
I do and I don't. But I do agree. So we have the member from the school committee, which will be Karen Cass-McBride. Finance committee is going to be Doug DeLay. So I see some people here in the audience. I will, you're welcome to come up and address the board. Let us know why you're interested and why you put your name in. I'm just going to start in the order that I received the papers. So Jane Lapointe, would you start us off, please? I know we have your letters, but we're gonna grill you a little bit anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't, I could repeat my letter again. No, I think we all realize how important this position is. You've been speaking to it tonight as you've been interviewing the interim candidates for the perspective they have, their ability to build on the momentum, I mean, you've really outlined what I've been listening to and taking notes on very well, what our concerns are. And, I think we're far beyond the stage where we want what we used to have as a traditional town manager who just came in and managed stuff. Mm. We want someone who can come in and lead with a vision, who and is out there listening to people, being proactive in what's going on. So I'm, very, very interested in that. And I just think, as I put in my letter, my interest is what? I grew up here. I graduated from Murdoch before many people in this room were born. And, but I have a long-standing interest in the community. When I came back, I was fortunate to be put on the Robinson Broadhurst Winchton Enhancement Committee that led to me becoming familiar with the town again 10 years ago, and have just been able to follow those leads to meet people and to have a sense of what's going on in the town, to be involved in some town committees. You know, I helped write the master plan that we're trying to work from now. Staying involved with the library and figuring out how that can become more integrated into the community. Through the community park, I've gotten to really know the DPW department really well, and also the recreation department. And just, you know, with the local food works, the Hill, Winchton, the Community Heart and Soul, I've actually heard a lot of things from people now. I've been helping with the story gathering and the data collection about what's important to people in the town. And I actually just this morning pulled out my notes from the Robinson Broadhurst Forum of 2013 as a refresher and thought, oh my goodness, here we are again. So, you know, it's just, you know, I have a broad perspective. As I put in my letter, I like to gather information, hear what a lot of people have to say, process it. I'm good at integrating. And I think of the town that way, and so I think of this position that way too. And I'd be very happy to, you know, to be part of it, if it makes sense to you that I have that opportunity, and I could just, you know, I'll bring to it what I have from my experiences in town and my experiences, you know, when I used in working and helping organizations and businesses continue to thrive or turn themselves around. So,
Thank you very
what else
much.
to say. If you have any questions for me, I can answer them.
I have no questions personally. No.
I have,
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thomas, and forgive me if I mispronounced the last name. Liao.
L-I-A-O?
Yes.
Yeah, like Liao?
Liao. Thank you.
Yes.
I wasn't sure where to put the accent.
All right. So, well, thank you for allowing me to at least be a part of the process up to this point.
Absolutely.
Now, I think an important thing to bear in mind as far as whether I'm the right person to be part of this search committee is that at the moment I don't have a lot of knowledge about the specifics of what the job, what the town manager's job actually looks like. I make an assumption that I can probably get most of what I need from a job description, as well as certainly the board has the kind of knowledge that already has this knowledge. So as far as needing me to add it, I'm not quite certain that that's a necessary deficit. I do have some, I have some interviewing experience, both as a manager interviewing new employees, as well as a person from a team who is interviewing a manager to take on that team. So that is the kind of perspective that I would want to bring to this particular search. One of the things I found a little lacking in terms of my own belief about what's going to be make a person a successful manager is that I didn't really hear much about the human factors kinds of things. One thing that concerned me about this particular applicant was that his only mention of working with his people was that he'd reevaluate the role if someone left. And I'm a firm believer that a manager is only as successful as he can make his team successful, the way that he works with them to accomplish everything that he's setting out to accomplish. So that, for example, one of the factors that I think is going to be important for me to understand, that is of interest to me, is things like how does he plan to leverage institutional knowledge? Because let's face it, the people who are on the team know a great deal about how the job is done right now and what things work and what things don't work. Obviously, you want to leverage the valuable institutional knowledge, but that doesn't mean that you have to be stuck with the way things are if you discover a better way to do things. And that's also part of the process. How do you work from the existing situation into that next stage of success as far as getting the job done extremely well? So that, in my mind, is kind of the things that, from a skills perspective, make sense. I've been a resident of Winchendon for about 20 years. I've been a lot of other places. I've had a career in software development, so that a lot of the perspectives about what a manager should be and how a manager should interact with a team do come from that kind of background. After the last, general town meeting, I said, okay, I've been here 20 years, I'm retired, I have some time on my hand, so that I'd really like the opportunity to find a way to make a contribution to the community as a whole through, in this case, through some level of government service, some public service kind of thing, as far as participating and applying the interview skills and what I have learned in my work life. So that's really I think, the kinds of things that are on my mind as far as why I would like to do this, as well as why I think I may have some skills that would be beneficial to this process. So if you have any questions for me, anything that came up that you'd like clarification on, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much. Very thorough. Questions, comments? No. I think we're all
Okay.
set. Thank you very
for
much.
the opportunity.
You're welcome. Next up, we have Guy Cobasaro. No clue what you've done in town.
Please,
I said, we've got no clue who you are or what you've been doing in town.
in disguise. Good afternoon. For people that don't know, my name is Guy Corbacero. I have been a lifelong resident of Winchendon, except for periods leaving town to go for employment. The reason I'm applying for the position is because I feel I have a good perspective on what is needed for the town of Winchendon as far as a town manager. I have the experience. I've been a selectman on the select board. I've been on the Board of Health. I'm chairman of the planning board, and I've been on a half dozen other boards in the town of Winchendon, and I'm chairman of the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission for another week and a half. So I will have plenty of time to deal with this, and I think, as I said, I have a good perspective on what the town needs, what the role of a town manager is, and I understand that as a committee, we'll have to vet a lot of the applicants. I know it's a confidential position where you can't let anybody know the applicants, and that's about it.
Oh, thank you very much. Questions, comments from the board? Thank you very much, Guy.
Thank you.
Then we have Cindy Landano. Good evening.
Hello, thank you.
You got the message?
I'm sorry? Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
The color of the day, there you go. So, yeah, thank you for having me come to explain my interest in the position. Again, I think I've spent most of my life in Winchendon, summers as a young child, and then certainly had an opportunity to work in Winchendon for many, many years. Lived here with my family, raised my child here as well. put her through the Winchendon Public Schools and have been a part of the Winchendon Public Schools. I had a variety of opportunities there, from teaching on the way up to administrative type positions. Through that, I've had lots of experiences with interviewing and lots of experiences with running search committees and being a part of that. So I think I bring those experiences to the table. But more than that, I think I bring kind of a passion for the community. I think that this is such a unique community. I've been here through many of the ups and downs, and I think we're poised in such a good spot right now as a town. It's encouraging. We've got so many positive things going on, including one of the things, I think your question that you brought up in terms of like the town and the school working together. It's such a key part. I mean, having lived working in the school department for so many years, that was not always the case, certainly. So it's a positive thing for this community, for those situations to be there. Those are the kinds of things we're going to need for a town manager. We're going to need them to be part of that team that wants to work together in that piece. So I think I bring that passion to the table. Again, I've had lots of experiences even running search committees, so I have those kinds of experiences, what kinds of questions we'll want to ask, how you try to vet your people to get the best match. Always, it's not always the paper part of the resume that's the most important part, I think. It's going to be that passion that someone brings to the table that's going to be really important for having that person be the match for what we can do. So I'd love to be a part of the process. I understand that, you have more applicants than spaces, so I would be, open to that as well. I mean, whatever works well for you as a group and for moving the process forward is going to just be what's important. So love to be a part of that. I certainly could answer any questions that you have about my experiences, but, I'd bring my passion and my knowledge and just my want for the town to continue to move forward, and a feeling of how important that position is key to making that happen, continuing the good stuff going on right now. So it's great.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board? Thank you very much. Bless you. Then we have Tom Shotanis. Okay. I was coming up with Scotanis. I had the Shotanis, the soft sound. Good evening.
Good evening.
And welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to give you a little bit of my own background, which leads me to where we're at today. But about 40 years ago...
A little bit closer to the mic, please.
About 40 years ago, I got into construction, working for a construction company in Fitchburg that did mostly commercial work. Really enjoyed it. I got my license. I became the senior supervisor for the owner of the company, and then he decided he was tired of it and offered to sell me the business. So I took over. At the time, we had gotten into, we did mostly commercial and industrial and institutional things. So we got in with the Health Alliance when doctors were going out of business and becoming things, so we converted a lot of homes into offices. They did a lot of work at Leominster Hospital, Burbank Hospital, Emerson Hospital. I mean, we just get into a ton of medical work. So through that, I had an opportunity in 2001 to go to Cameroon, West Africa, to work with the Cameroon Baptist Convention Health Board. They have 19 health centers and 9 hospitals, to be their technical advisor. And I was on the management committee of the teaching hospital that we worked at for about 17 years. We were there. We ended up coming back to town here at the end of 2017 due to civil crisis, civil unrest. So in the meantime, while we were there, I'm an engineer, do all of these type of things. I had a real interest in development. Saw a lot of problems over there, so I started working with a lot of villages doing water projects and different things. But as I got into that, I realized that the country has tremendous resources, human resources, natural resources, but it was still a wreck. And so I began to wonder, what is the real problem? So through my job over there, I got to meet a lot of government people, got to experience a lot of corruption, and began to realize that the lack of development in these countries has nothing to do with money, and it has everything to do with the way people behave, how they work in government, how they work together, cooperation, how if people are honest and faithful. So through this and through my connections over there, I started talking with people about this. And so I ended up forming a group called Integrity for Cameroon with a bunch of government officials. And that started going really well in 2016. Then the civil crisis came up where they had a little bit of a civil war going on. In fact, it's still going on. And were forced to leave. So having this passion, I had an opportunity to go to Liberia and speak to a group of people over there and presented the thing on cultural values and how they impact development. Some values promote, some values hold back. And people told me that, they said, wow, we've never heard anything like this before. You should write this down so that we can teach it to other people. So in December, I published a book called Solving the Puzzle of Development. And in the meantime, we got this group going back in Cameroon. I have a group in Liberia, a group in the Congo. I'm going to Kenya this summer and Uganda. It seems like people are very interested in starting these integrity groups. So bearing that in mind, I took a great deal of interest in government, the things that actually make it function, make it work well. We came back here and we're seeing all the issues that are going on here in the United States now. And I see a lot of people complaining about the state of government, the way things function. I followed the elections that have happened here in town. The last presidential election, there were like 5,100 people came out to vote. The last school board, and I think there were some selectmen, it was about 500. So I saw the apathy, and I have a friend in town here who knows the things that we're working with and my interest in these type of things. So when the Facebook thing came out looking for a search committee, he sent me a thing and he said, hey, Tom. And so I talked to my wife about it, I thought about it, and I said, you know, I really have a passion for this. I want to be an active citizen. I want to be involved. It's easy to sit on the sidelines and complain. I love business management. That's what I taught for many years, business and project management. And so here I am.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments from the board?
Madam Chair, I would
Yes.
just love for you to solve our puzzle of development here in town. I think that'd be great.
It's on Amazon if you're interested.
That's thrilling. I just think that's awesome. And I hope, you know, with this committee, you don't stop there, that we have boards, seats open everywhere, and we desperately need people. So.
What she said.
So,
I said what she said.
Do you see your upcoming traveling as a barrier to being able
no, I'm
to
only probably going to be
attend?
gone 2 weeks, the end of August.
Oh, all right.
Other than that, we work from home here, which I kind of like that too.
Perfect.
We have kids and grandkids that we missed a lot of their life being out of the country, and so we're enjoying that. So,
Yeah, and when they're young, you blink and you miss so much. Yeah.
okay. The only small complaint I have is I just get hearing aids. My wife's been pushing me for a long time. So I was sitting over there in the app, but the sound here is like awful.
It's a beautiful room,
So
but
if I
the
end up on the
acoustics.
committee, if I can sit in a different place, that would be beneficial.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
And then our last letter of interest is from Gabrielle Lee. I don't see her in the audience, but we do have her letter expressing interest to be on the committee. So those are our 6. Anything further from the board? Questions, comments, discussions?
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Anderson?
could I just say that I love that we have our experienced voices and people who are very familiar with being on committees, but I'm just so thrilled that new people have stepped up. I can't even express it, that because I think we need new, fresh eyes and to look at solving some of the problems that we have in town, as well as the expertise of people who have been here for quite some time. So I love the assortment that we have.
Agreed. Anything further?
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Lapointe?
I would make a motion to nominate for appointment the 5 individuals that are here tonight. Jane Lapointe, Thomas Liao, Guy Corbacero, Cindy Landano, and Tom
Shatanis.
Shatanis. Sorry.
Second.
All right, motion has been made and seconded to appoint the 5 named individuals to the Town Manager Search Committee. Any further discussion?
No, just thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you very much.
So, can I have a question?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what's the next step? Do we wait for something? Who's going to pull us all together?
Sure. So as far as the town manager position, we're currently in a period of requesting RFPs from consulting companies to help us with that search. I haven't looked at my calendar. I think that the deadline for submitting those is like next week. So by the early July or so, we're hoping to have maybe mid-July, a consulting company signed. Yeah, exactly. And then, they'll start doing their thing. And I personally don't see too much happening here until we get some feedback from them initially as to how things are going and when they think they're going to have some candidates.
So the job, what I'm curious about is,
I'm sorry. Why don't you come forward, Jane? Thank you.
what I'm curious about also is knowing when the job description will be available. Is the head consultant helping to put that together? Have you drafted something? Because that'll be really helpful for us to have that, to be thinking about.
Yeah, I suspect that once, we have a contract, we
Okay.
will be firming up, we have a pretty good sense, we have a job description. And once we have a final job description, then we can make it available to you.
Okay, I know,
I'm
appreciate it.
concerned.
And am I right, I heard you saying you've got another candidate, and I looked on my calendar online, my phone. So Thursday, is it a Zoom thing?
Yes, it is a 100% Zoom. We ourselves will not be here
Okay,
at 5:30.
okay.
Madam Chair, if I
Yes.
might, in the meantime, if your committee wanted to meet either in person or via Zoom or whatever, so that you can organize yourselves and what you're looking for and how you want to
Well,
structure your
Thank you
organization.
for bringing that up, because I was curious, because I was on the search committee the screening committee last time, and it was run by the consultant, but, we did have that opportunity to take the questions, refine them, and go with it. So it might be kind of interesting for us to have that opportunity, especially maybe once we had the job description to do that. So I don't know who would call that, because but we could guess we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I would say contact Mary Calandrella
Yep.
at the town manager's office. She'll know the names of everyone who's going to be on it. We should have email addresses for everyone, but she can reach out and, create send an email just checking availability and finding out when you're
And
ready.
maybe what we want to do, to your point, Barbara, is figure out, get together, and I know it's not like a regular town committee, but, have
You're a
the
real
chair.
committee.
Oh, yeah, chair, absolutely.
chair, something like that.
Definitely.
Yeah, and we can actually arrange, I don't see why not, once we have the consultant,
Yeah.
to have a first meeting with the consultant
Absolutely.
and
Actually,
the
I think
search
that would be
committee.
a really good idea when you have them, is to get us all together.
Yeah. Madam Chair,
Absolutely.
Yes,
it gave me pause when I heard Ms. Lapointe say that the consultant ran the committee. I would like them to run the committee, my personal preference. And the consultant there for input and feedback, but I would like our citizens to run the committee,
Yes,
personally.
I agree.
Yeah, I think so, too. Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, we... Question as well? Yes, please.
So it's my understanding, and this is by town gossip, that there have been, challenges with the position in the past,
Position of
town manager.
town manager, okay.
And would it be possible to somehow get some history on that? You know, if you
What do you wanna
understand
know?
mistakes that have been made, you're not so apt to make them again, or if you think it's relevant.
There's,
That all
that requires
depends-
more time than we have tonight, but yes.
Yeah, and on,
Depends who you speak to.
and to, yeah, absolutely. To be honest,
Think about it.
no, I can tell you right now, from my perspective point of view, if there's anything that you would like to know about prior town managers, I am not going to tell you as a Board of Selectmen, as a representative of the Board of Selectmen, we can't speak as a board to you as an individual. We can speak to you as, I can speak to you as Audie LaBrie, citizen, but I can't speak to you as Audie LaBrie, chair or member of the Board of Selectmen, because that is something that as a board, we have to put that forward.
I guess I was
Does
just
that make
looking
sense?
for what might have been the details that led up to the departure.
Of the current manager?
Even the one before, it was my understanding that it cost the town a lot of money to have him leave.
Oh, that was
goes
two
a couple
before.
back.
2015, you're talking about
Yes.
2015, probably.
Yeah.
So,
Because I
yeah,
was kind of struggling with that understanding. I mean, if you want to get rid of somebody, you must have a reason doing that, so you shouldn't have to cost you money to do it.
There's lots of people in the community that would give you the feedback you're looking for. As Audrey said, though, we just can't do it as a board.
yes, and just, everyone, please be aware, we are under instruction not to discuss that. I don't believe there's any statute of limitations.
I didn't sign that paper.
I wasn't a member of that board either.
Throwing it out there.
Any other questions? All right, we do have an executive session on the agenda this meeting. Do we feel that we need to have one? Or are we set until our next interview?
I think personally we're set until the next one, right?
Yeah. So.
Until
for-
Thursday?
Yes.
Although that might be hard over Zoom.
Well, if we don't make a decision Thursday, it's going to be Monday.
This one's missing one.
I think it could wait until Monday, but it's up to you guys.
Okay. I'd rather have as many board members there as possible for that decision. I know Rick still won't be around, but Barbara, you'll be there Monday, so,
I will be.
okay.
I'll be able to be there Monday.
Okay, perfect. So there is no executive session this evening. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned at 7:07.